Welcome back to another episode of Broke Up, Not Broke In. I'm your host, Jamie Lima, and founder of Allegiant Divorce Solutions, where we help people prepare for, navigate, and recover financially from divorce. This podcast is your one-stop shop for mastering your life and your finances throughout the entire divorce process. Today's guest is Germaine Foley, a certified life and money coach who specializes in helping women build wealth without sacrificing the joys of their life. Germaine's journey from six-figure income and six-figure debt to lasting financial freedom is not only powerful, but it's also practical. She now helps others rebuild financial confidence and create wealth after major life transitions, including divorce. So grab a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice, buckle up, and let's once again get you personally and financially empowered. Germaine, it is so good to have you here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Jamie. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you because, you were cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways here with our financial background and me being a financial planner. 21 years this year I've been a financial planner. So that's where all the gray and the beard comes from. So you luckily don't have that problem. But I know you have a lot of experience in the world of coaching people and through all the financial decisions that they have to make and helping build wealth and so on. And sounds like you had a little bit of a rough road there that brought you to where you are. So maybe we start there. We'll see where the conversation goes from that point.
Yes, absolutely. So I grew up right outside of Detroit in a blue collar town, and my family knew that my parents knew that they wanted to get us in a decent school system. So they worked really hard to get us in the suburbs. So we moved to the suburbs. And when I got there, all the kids, they had the latest and greatest gym shoes, jeans, purses. And I wanted some of that stuff, but we just couldn't afford it. So at the time, I think I just subconsciously made a pact with myself that I was going to grow up, make a lot of money so that I could buy whatever I wanted. And that's exactly what I did. My husband and I, when we first met, we were instantly six-figure earners. For us, that was like being rich because we both grew up right outside, in blue collar towns. Mm-hmm. So we bought all the things, spent all the money, and we were making it work. We were robbing Paul to pay Peter until we had 2 kids in daycare, which I'm sure you know, Jamie, is not cheap. And the mortgage in the daycare bill was exactly the same. Yes. And so from there, that's when, robbing Paul to pay Peter and juggling those balls just wasn't happening anymore. And I started to just feel stressed and worried. And more so than anything, I knew I wasn't going to leave a good example for my kids if I continue down that road. So I started looking for answers, and I started Googling like how to get out of debt. Because at this point we had over $200,000 worth of debt. About $100K was student loans, and the rest was just consumer debt. And of course, when you Google, you get all sorts of answers. But the one answer that kept coming up was like, stop buying lattes and stop going on vacation. And I just couldn't get with that. It was just like, why can't I have a latte if I work so hard? So I thought I'd go a different route. So we ended up filing for Chapter 13 bankruptcy. And I thought that was going to solve all of our problems. It did not. And so I ended up still needing answers because Chapter 13 doesn't wipe away the debt. You still have to pay it back over a 5-year period. And that's when I just started reading all the books, and I'm like, fine, I'll give up my lattes. I'll give up everything. And then I took that plan to my husband, and he's just like, yes, Germaine, we need to do something, but we can't live like this for the next 20 years because we have these young boys. We want to be able to enjoy our lives. We have to do something, but we can't do it like that. And that's when I came up with the idea that what if we could do both? What if we could build wealth and enjoy life at the same time? What if we could have debt, vacation sometimes? What if we could get out of debt or save and invest and still let our kids participate in extracurricular activities? So that's what we did. And we paid off all the debt, literally all of it, except for our mortgage. And that wasn't included in the $200,000 anyway. And now we have over $500,000 net worth that continues to grow. And now I help other women who are in my same shoes. They make good money. They may be stuck in debt, very little savings, and they just don't want to have to give up everything and live on a strict budget in order to build wealth.
It's an incredible story. Incredible story. It's amazing how these childhood experiences really shape you and mold you into the person that you are today. Because, I mean, listeners have heard me say it 1,000 times, and I've talked about it on other podcasts. I mean, the reason why I do the work that I do, first and foremost as a financial planner, is because my parents were the same. It was like we had similar background. We lived out in the suburbs. We were out in the boondocks, frankly. Like, and both of my parents worked. They worked really hard, multiple jobs. They ended up getting a divorce when I was relatively young. And, I just watched them struggle all my entire life. And like, we never had, like, if I wanted the best shoes or if I wanted, really cool clothes to wear to school, I had to work and earn that money for them. And so I had my first job at 13. And just having that experience and just really having that define me at an early age. And then, of course, watching them go through the divorce and the financial struggles that are associated with that, it's really what put me on the path to doing what I do today. And now, going through my own divorce, here I am, helping other people navigate the financial challenges of theirs. So it's incredible how you have that early on experience, and it really shapes and molds you into the person that you are. And like, what talk about a comeback stories. And so this is what a lot of listeners need to hear. I mean, because so many of the people we work with are either preparing for a divorce and terrified of what it's going to look like on the other side, or they've now started going through negotiations and they're starting to think through like what the settlement's going to look like and what their future life is going to look like. So like, you were able to overcome that setback. What advice would you have for people that are in this particular, like this going through this experience now through divorce, and they have to deal with all the financial challenges they're going to be facing? Like, that's a huge setback. Like, are there practical steps people can employ to put it behind them and move on to that next phase without having to scrimp and scratch to be able to enjoy their lives?
Yes. First, I think it needs to start with possibility and the mindset. Like, for me, until I just had the aha moment, like, oh my gosh, what if I could get my money together and still figure out how to enjoy life? Like, that moment of possibility just opened me up to trying things and being creative. So you have to have at least a little sliver of hope so that you have the energy to even take one step forward. So I think the first thing is, I would say to anyone, is like, wherever you are now, I promise you, there is light at the end of the tunnel if you keep possibility open and if you're willing to just take one step at a time. For us, that was literally just printing off some bank statements and looking at where all my money was going. Like, that was literally the first thing I did. Mm-hmm. In that moment, the world opened up to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're spending that much on just food. At the time, I had 2 toddlers, 2 adults, and we were spending, and this was back in the early 2000s, $1,500 a month just on food. Okay, so there's some of your money right there. We were able, just from that awareness, we were just able to like slash that in half. So then that gave us some wiggle room, and then we were able to do other things and other things. So I think it starts with possibility. And then I would offer or invite everybody to take me up on this do both mindset, which means that you can build wealth and enjoy life at the same time. And in order to do that, you first have to get clear on what it actually means for you to enjoy life. It doesn't mean that you're going to spend on any and everything impulsively just because you want it. It means that you get really clear on the most important things to you in this season of life, and you choose those things to spend your money on, and then figure out what financial goal you want to work on, and you do those 2 things at the same time. And then as your seasons of life progress and change, those priorities will end up changing as you go along.
And that's the biggest thing, right? Is like, I see this happen with, even our traditional financial planning clients that we've worked with, where they're like, you've got to have that and strategy, that and mindset. It's not, do I want the latte or do I get to retire, right? It's like, you got to figure out, there is a way for you to have both. You just need to be really wise and intentional. I would say is probably the best word for this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Awareness of what it is that is important to you. So a lot of times I'll take my clients through a values exercise, and they'll find out that family happiness, travel, financial security are all things that they value. But then when we look at their bank statement, it's not showing that all those things are on there. Sometimes the travel will show up. Sometimes the family happiness will show up, but that financial security piece is usually lagging. So just helping people to like mesh the two together. Like, what are your values and how are you spending your money? And how can we get those two things to mirror each other?
That's awesome. We take everybody through a similar exercise. On the divorce side, we have them go through a my priorities exercise, which is like just to get an understanding of what hills do you want to die on as we're going down this path and taking you through the divorce, so we can help them plan accordingly. And I'm a big fan of the SMART, framework of using very specific, measurable, aligned, realistic, and time-bound goals to be able to help you achieve something. And that's what we do on the traditional financial planning side of things. We use the SMART framework, and it has been super helpful. So whatever you use, whatever method you use to be able to get your head in the right space, I think that's super powerful. And I guess in that realm, as far as like the headspace and the way that you're thinking about this, how do you like work with somebody who just has this sense of fear and shame or overwhelmed because of the position that they're in, whether that's because of divorce or not? How do you get somebody over that hurdle?
Yeah. So fear is an emotion, right? And usually our emotions are coming from something we're thinking and we're feeling, like something that's going through our head, some thoughts we're having. And so I had a client who we're working together right now. The goal is to get out of credit card debt. And it's been a little slower than we anticipated. And I was just like, hold on, you're making all this money. She's a pharmacist. She's doing very well financially. And I'm like, well, where's the money going? Because the plan is that it's going on the debt. And we just had a real honest conversation. And she was just like, I've been saving it. And I said, why? She says, because I'm scared. I asked, what are you scared of? She's like, that something drastic will happen. And then I said, okay, tell me what is something drastic. So you just get deeper and deeper into those thoughts. And for her, it was maybe I would get a flat tire. Maybe there's an expense that will come up and I won't have the money. And then I was able to show her, like, actually, with the savings you have already, you have more than enough to cover those things. And sometimes fear is a good thing because it's your brain saying, hey, are we safe? And you sometimes just have to remind your brain, yes, we're safe. I have this chunk of cash right here for our safety, for our security. So it's safe for us to use a little bit of this or the remainder of the money I have every month in this season of my life to pay down my high interest debt. And once we were able to get to the underlying cause of the fear and to show her that she was actually prepared for that fear, she was able to start really going to town on that credit card debt.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I hate to bring this question up because I only agree with a very small amount of things that this person says all the time. I think most of it's garbage, but you're reminding me of the Dave Ramsey debt snowball type of thing, right? Like where it's like, I don't know if you use this in your own scenario, but I know that a lot of my clients have used it in the past. And in some cases, we've even used it to try to help our clients get out of debt, where it's like you pay off your high interest credit cards first and you get that momentum and so on. Is that kind of intertwined with the work you like? Because you have this emergency reserve here, right? And then once you have that pile of money, so to speak, to be able to cover those expenses. Is that the approach that you take with some of your clients of like, let's figure out like high interest credit cards or high interest student loans or whatever it is? Like, how are you tackling this debt? Because
yes,
you're at the bottom of this mountain and the top of it seems so high. How are you getting that momentum? Because that's what it's really all about, right? Is that momentum.
Absolutely. Okay. So I have to tell you that I think Dave Ramsey should get so much credit for just getting people to think about their money and like but I couldn't, like I told you, I'm the do both girl. Like I can't go on rice and beans. I can't do most of what he says, but I think he deserves credit because he gets people at least thinking about it.
Sure.
Now, what I will say is that this is how I teach my clients. I'll just give you the process. I think everyone should have a chunk of money in a high yield savings account that will at least account for 1 month of expenses. So let's say it costs you $5,000 to live your life. That's your necessities. We're not really talking about luxuries at this point. Then let's put that in a high yield savings account. And that is what you have. So for this client I'm just talking to you about, she had more than that because she feels comfortable having a little more. So she's fine there. And then we go to the high interest debt. I don't count all debt the same. The high interest debt, like that 20%, 30% credit card debt, we want to get rid of those. I do think you should be investing while you're doing all of this, getting your match, especially if you have a 401k. Like, why would you not get your match? And then we go from there. Once the debt is paid off, we go back and, get a nice, maybe 6-month emergency fund, and then really beef up investing and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of that's the process.
I love the order of operations because it really is an order of operations, right? We follow the same thing where it's like, you've got to go, you start here and you go here. And then once you've done that, I love it. Is that what you would call your signature wealth process, or is that a different, because I did some research on you, what is that your main process, or is that just an example you were giving us?
Yeah, that's what I work. Yes, that's my process. I think that's my do both process. And then that whole way, you're still able to spend money on things that are important to you. So there's some nuances in there around, spending, having your own spending account for fun money, and you're saving, all that stuff. And I also think that you should, even while you're getting out of debt, you should still be saving something, because it's a mental skill. It's a habit that you just don't want to break. I'll tell you a quick story. So I followed a little bit of what Dave Ramsey said around when we were getting out of debt. Like, I had a certain amount in the bank, more than he suggests, but then I just completely focused on getting out of debt. And once we were done, I was like, oh, now I'm going to be able to really save. I couldn't, because it was so psychologically programmed in me that money comes into me and it leaves me. Even though I was spending it on, paying off debt, which was good, I wasn't used to having money and keeping money. I didn't have that habit. So I never want people to lose the habit of always saving something.
I get that. It's like you're kind of on autopilot, right? Like, the money comes in, the money goes out, and that's just how your life is. And it's so difficult to manage, especially in I just had this conversation with another podcast guest a couple of days ago, and she brought up this concept of the scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
And I'm not really big on the whole, I get it and I understand the psychology behind money and behavioral finance, and I understand all that, but I never really looked at it through the lens of me personally. And I don't know if you've ever had this experience yourself, given your background and the way you grew up, but she like pinned me down with this. I was like, you know exactly how I feel about this. It's a scarcity mindset where it's like, I kind of felt that way too for a very long time, where it's like, money's going to come in, it's going to go out. We're going to give it to the kids. We're going to give it to here. We're going to give it to taxes. We're going to do this. Like, the money just goes. And it was almost like because of the way I grew up, I was like, this is just how I'm going to be, right? Like, I can help 1,000 other people manage their own money, but like, I needed to change my own mindset on that. It's like, and she just brought it up the other day in a conversation. I was like, wow, this is like, I'm glad I fixed it for myself. But I had never really thought it through it that way. Do you have any experience with that, or any of your clients deal with that?
Oh, yeah. For sure. You mentioned at the beginning, I'm a certified life coach. So a lot I do is from that like psychological space too, because I think we can tell people what to do all day long with their money. You can Google how to get out of debt, how to build a budget, but doing it is it's a whole another thing. So our brains like to be in the familiar. So if you're used to like not having money on hand, your brain is like, that must be the way to go, because we are surviving without money. It might be dangerous. I know it sounds very irrational right now, but your brain is not, the lower part of your brain is not rational at all. It's thinking like, oh, if we have a lot of money, that might be dangerous. Like, literally, that is what it is. And so you have to like reprogram what's familiar to you. So when I was getting out of debt, we were used to only having a few $1,000s. And anything above that was unfamiliar. And every time we had the opportunity to build that savings up, something would happen. We would spend it, or it would be an emergency. And then I had to kind of like wake up to it. Like, oh, I just need to reprogram my brain to be now really uncomfortable having that small amount of money. And now, comfortable having way more. So it's practice, it's consciousness, you mentioned this earlier, intention to notice what's happening and then to decide you're going to break out of it, even though it's going to be uncomfortable to do so.
Yeah, and it is uncomfortable sometimes. What are you must deal with a lot of people going through divorce or recovering from it, just like we do. And what are some of the most, I guess, prominent, or the traps people fall into, right? Like, so like there has to be like here are the number one traps that people fall into, because you go from this experience of being a dual income family in most cases, right? Or you're, stay at home mom, stay at home father, and you have this, and it's the way that you've done things, right? Like one person pays the bills, one person earns the money, or whatever it is, right? And then all of a sudden you go to like that life is over, and you've got to figure it all out on your own. If you weren't the one paying the bills, you've got to figure out how to do that. If you weren't the one budgeting, you've now got to figure that. Like, so what are some of the money traps people most fall into the most?
So I can think of 3 examples just off the top of my head. One is that the person tries to like make up for it, especially if there's kids involved. They try to make up for it. Like, oh, I work primarily with women. So I had one client that was just like, the dad's not involved, the dad's not doing, so I feel like I have to make up for it. And that's financially. So they're spending a bunch of money, they're doing a bunch of things, they're over compensating for the divorce or what they think, the kids are going through. So that's a trap, I think, right there. Do you ever see that?
It's the Disneyland dad, is what they call it, right? Like, I have my kids on the weekends or every other weekend or whatever it is, so I want to make sure I'm overcompensating for my not being there on the daily. So I see that happen a lot for sure.
Yeah, and then I can think of another situation where the dad or the husband was making all the money, the mom would stay at home, and she fell into a trap like I'm only a single mom, like almost like as a victim. Like she wouldn't be able to overcome, that she wouldn't be able to make it. And with her, it was definitely helping her to see her self-worth, helping her to see that she can be an amazing mom. Let's just call you a mom instead of calling you a single mom, because that's what you are. A lot of just little like societal messages that we get about, single moms and things like that. She was really taking that on. And now like she's actually remarried at this point, but between that time frame, she started her own business. She made more money than she had ever made just from tweaking the way she thought about herself and her capabilities of taking care of her family. So yeah, I think a lot of what people can fall into, it starts with the thinking and like the mindset.
Yeah, I can. And the thing I will say too is, nobody likes a naysayer, but I'm going to say this. In our world as financial advisors, I used to coach and train advisors. I've worked with thousands of them, hundreds of them over my 20-year career. And there are some really good ones, and there are some really bad ones that are out there. And if you're exploring the opportunity, exploring the option of working with a financial advisor, or a divorce coach or financial coach, whomever, you've got to do your due diligence. Because one of the traps that I see some people fall into after the divorce is they become easy prey. And I think through like some of the women that I've worked with and that are now working with me on the wealth management side of things, had they gone somewhere else, I don't know where they would end up. Like, would they be getting good financial advice? Would they be taken advantage of? Would they be sold the next hot thing that the advisor needs to sell? Like some these TikTok gurus that are out there with all this amazing financial information, like how to leverage insurance and all this other stuff. Like, come on. So, I mean, some of this stuff belongs in a financial plan, but most of it that you're listening to out there on TikTok in the world of finance is garbage. And that's where these people get their advice. So you've got to be, I think, long-winded way of me saying, one of the traps I see people falling into is they trust the wrong people when the dust settles on the divorce, and it can really hurt them.
Yeah. Because I can see why, especially if they weren't used to handling money and they don't, kind of going back to my single mom example where she didn't think she was able and capable, like you think you need to abdicate your financial decisions to someone else who seems like they have it all together or have some credentials. When the truth is, like, I would urge every woman to not invest or buy anything you don't fully understand. And don't let anyone make you feel stupid. I'm using air quotes, stupid, for not knowing, or dumb for asking, because it's your money and you should know exactly what you're doing with it. Yeah, don't let anybody. And that
Oh,
can come from just thinking that they don't have what it takes, or they don't know, or they're bad with money. All those narratives that we can just let go of.
I love it. Amazing advice. I used to tell people all the time, because I would come across, when I worked at a big name company before I started my own firm, and I had somewhere between 400 and 450 clients. And you wouldn't believe some of the garbage that I've seen people come to us with, and or maybe even some former advisors at that same firm sold them this stuff, and I'm like, what the heck is it? What? There's no rationale for this. And my question back to them was always like, do you understand what you own and why you own it? And if you can't answer that question for me, we're probably going to try to do what we can to get you out of it. And so that would be, just to piggyback on what you said. If you can't explain that investment strategy to me, or why you're doing something, or why you're investing your money in such a way, we've got to help educate you, right, and help you as coaches and as financial planners, help you understand the rationale for it. But if you truly don't understand it, maybe it's not a fit, because we don't like the good advisors out there. They want to do what's in the best interest of all their clients at all times. And by selling a bunch of garbage and stuff that's just so esoteric and laden with fees and everything else, that's not always the right way to go. So thank you for bringing that up. That's an amazing point. This is the carte blanche segment of our chat today. So is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to share, or any questions I should have asked you that you want to answer for our listeners?
Yeah. So you asked me the traps. One of the traps I think we can fall into, if you're going through a divorce or not, or, post-divorce, is emotional spending. And that is one of the things I think I specialize in, is helping people who overspend, impulse spend, and emotionally spend. Because listen, divorce is hard. And sometimes the emotions are there, the sadness, the grief of, loss of the relationship, the anger, the guilt, the shame, all the things, right? And sometimes you just want to feel better. And retail therapy is called retail therapy for a reason, because it does temporarily take your mind off of things. It does temporarily give you a dopamine hit, but it's very short-lived. And on the back end, there are all these financial consequences that you have to deal with. So I would caution, like, if people are listening and they find themselves doing a lot of spending, a lot of shopping, that can be detrimental to your financial well-being as well. And know that there's nothing wrong with you if you're doing that. You're just trying to feel better, which is normal, but there are other ways to do so.
Oh, love it. That dopamine hit will get you every time, won't it?
Yes.
And how do people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about the work you do and maybe working with you moving forward?
Yeah. So my name is, again, Germaine Foley, and I have a free class called How to Build Wealth Without Going on a Strict Budget. And you can go to my website to grab it. I'll give you the link, but I'll say it as well. It's GermaineFoley.com/wealth class. And that's Germaine with a G.
Love it. Thanks so much for joining us today. Amazing conversation. We're going to have you back, because I think we only scratched the surface on some of the things that we can and should be talking about. So thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your story and all the wisdom that you have around financial recovery and freedom. For our listeners that are out there ready to rebuild their financial life after divorce, be sure to check out Germaine's free training at GermaineFoley.com/wealth class, like she mentioned. Follow her on Instagram at Germaine Foley Coaching, and visit her website for coaching and resources. Don't worry, we're going to put all the links in the show notes for you. And if you're looking for financial clarity and planning support during your divorce, we here at Allegiant Divorce Solutions are always here to help. Visit AllegiantDS.com to learn more. Don't forget to subscribe to Broke Up, Not Broken for more empowering conversations like this. Until next time.